Let us begin. Help Save Our World Speak 98. To become a wise visionary guide and teacher, you must be willing to learn, adapt, and change. Not just learning anything and everything, because that will, of course, take much too long. So focused learning is crucial to enable you to create your visionary, fair, happy, healthy, and sustainable future. That's why learning from others who have already traveled this journey is a considerable time and energy saver. Thus, the importance of why you must primarily learn these specific new natural education and sustainability teachings to become a critical thinker and empower yourself to think wisely. Learning while constantly focusing on your vision, your mission, and purpose, and the natural philosophy of these teachings to help save our world, and constantly checking in with your intuitive guidance. You're improving your knowledge and your skills and wisdom of nature and yourself. These teachings, of course, teach you that critical thinking and reasonable logic and how to be selective. Choose wisely what you read and take only that which you know to be obviously the truth as your own and dump the rest. Always remember, not everything that's written in black or white or is on video is true. Once you have learned some new truth, you would be wise to incorporate it into your life, practice it, and teach it to others as soon as possible. Then spreading this wisdom by word of mouth and in person is the most potent form of communication. There's nothing better than one-on-one. We must also create more books and videos and in multiple languages and spread this wisdom globally. Then, of course, the ultimate step is the experiential teaching in sustainable teaching eco-villages. Gives people a hands-on life's experience of the philosophy, which we will spread globally in multiple eco-villages around the world. In this way, we create the sustainability of our new love-based paradigm. Anyone want to comment there? Okay. Our organization's primary objective is to provide this free information to humanity. And having done the planning and created the syllabi and the lists for you to accelerate your learning. However, funding is essential to accelerate this process and spread it globally as soon as possible to ensure we achieve as much as possible, as soon as possible, and before, of course, I pass on and I'm not here to keep on contributing or whoever in this small group we have. To this end, Alex suggested teaching these sustainability projects as paid courses before building the eco-villages. Then later, we would be able to incorporate these lessons as part of the eco-villages curriculum. Doing as Alex suggested, we spread the knowledge and wisdom as soon as possible while funding the development of the sustainable teaching eco-villages. The eco-villages would thus become our sustainability learning centers, facilitating multiple ways of learning and creating the movement for fundamental change. We could also bring in guest specialists or teachers or trainers for courses, although we must be vigilant because they might not have our sustainable way of thinking and might teach unsustainable methods and undermine what we're teaching. So it might be essential to have them do our courses first before they become teachers of whatever their specialist thing is. So we're all on the same page. It's so easy to make a fundamental mistake and introduce a destructive way of thinking, and bam, everything we've built up until now is gone. Any comments? Now, obviously, our future depends upon us working fast and trusting ourselves. So fear and self-imposed paralysis are not options. Knowing there are many ways to promote our Help Save Our World projects, we must constantly reevaluate our methods and promotions and ways of getting funding to ensure that we're gaining more support, impetus, and funding. So we might go on some idea and try something and it doesn't work. We reevaluate and we try something else, and we just keep on trying until we find something that works really well. Now, we need funding to expand our projects, like writing books for all age groups, to spread our teachings across the world, creating ultimately that new natural wisdom education system as a working system that we can actually share globally, that people can apply all over the world, even if they don't have the sustainable eco-villages, but just having that education system available to them. Actively re-educating humanity, so actually getting involved and having people come to us and we actually do the teaching of humanity, coming to our eco-villages and so on. Creating and driving the movement to help save our world. Now, that's a whole movement. It requires marketing and promotions and gatherings and all sorts of things to get this movement rolling and flowing on to help save our world and all life on it. Creating and spreading sustainable eco-villages globally. Now, that's a huge amount of funding and commitment and energy that we need. But of course, without the funding, we're not going anywhere at the moment. As well as doing other major world and earth transforming projects to make that sustainable world in which we all deserve to live. Now, there are so many like macro projects like reclaiming desert regions and reforestation and creating habitats and saving our reefs and all of that. There's like these macro projects that need our urgent attention. But without funding, in this current paradigm, with its destructive impetus and to redirect humanity to create this constructive, life-saving, world-saving impetus, requires funding within this paradigm. Once we move beyond this paradigm and we've established everything, then will be no need for that. It's like really we're building a bridge, a non-violent, creative bridge to the future, as opposed to destroy and try and recreate. Because why waste all of that energy and that effort and everything on just destroying to hopefully nature recovering afterwards? Let's rather just take what we've got and start feeding it back into manifesting the world we want. So that's the idea. Anybody?
Well, I agree with it. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, can't go ahead.
You go.
Yeah, and I just want to say that all sounds good. That's basically where we need to get to.
Cool. Good. Anything else?
Yeah. No, I pretty much agree with that. Yep. All big projects require funding on some level, and got to move from the garage to the street.
Absolutely. So that brings us to like ways of funding our transition back to the land. So previously, I spoke about extended families, like selling up their inner city wealth and coming together and buying land and combining their wealth to return to nature and the land as a great idea to ensure their faster recovery from city life and to establish their own sustainable eco-villages. However, this solution is, although great, it's like not everyone has an extended family with wealth, so it's not available to everyone. Then I think back to what Alex said about her donations to Greenpeace as a way of giving what she could afford to help those who are protecting nature and fighting for nature. Or as we are doing, in our case, giving of ourselves, our energy, our time, our effort, and even outside our garden, sowing, growing, and nurturing nature, and of course, ultimately re-educating humanity with our journey. This has taken a lot of effort from all of you, and I really appreciate it, from what you're doing. Is just being here every week is like, it's asking a lot of people in this Western world paradigm. It's not the easiest thing to do, and I appreciate it. If you cannot make the enormous changes now and want to help us create a new education system and create sustainable teaching eco-villages to create that sustainable world which we seek, it might be a good idea if we could provide you with a trusted donation system so you can give small amounts monthly or a percentage of your earnings to create a better world. Thus, we provide you with a way so you can make a critical difference to help save our world. By creating this new education system and organization, and by growing sustainable eco-villages, we compound the effectiveness of your investment by spreading life-expanding knowledge and wisdom to others, as well as expanding life itself through those who are growing the trees and spreading life on the lands, and the plants and the animals themselves spreading by naturally multiplying life. Your investments in this way have a compounded effect on manifesting the world that we deserve to live in. It's not as if you're putting money in and it just gets used up and it's gone. If it's put into literally sowing the seeds of life or sowing the seeds of knowledge, it's all having that compounded effect of transforming our world. So I think that's like really a wonderful way of making a difference. The Steves teaching others how to live sustainably and become the expanding educational, decentralized, earth-transforming sustainability education centers that are developing a better world is an even better way to go than just family wealth. I mean, just people visiting and learning and then taking that and spreading eco-villages and spreading the knowledge. It's this expansive regrowth of the wisdom of nature and life and whatever. So I think, to me, sustainable teaching eco-villages are like the ultimate thing. And then through donations, it becomes accessible to the masses, like I'm sure the masses of people really feel that it's important to them creating a sustainable future. And if they could in some way just help make a difference to them, it gives them some way of expressing that need. Those who only have a little can give what they can, and collectively, we have the power to make an enormous difference, especially, of course, if they donate monthly or as often as they can. And those who have the means to make much more significant donations and want to create that sustainable future with bigger donations, they can empower us to create that future far sooner. And for you who cannot change now, and want to ensure you have that option later. This making donations is critical and is just one way of creating the future we want and deserve. Some of you won't have the money to give. Of course, instead, you can contribute your time, your energy, or make some effort into making this happen. You could help us in many ways, like editing and promoting, or whatever sort of niche within the system where we need help. You can become part of creating and funding the movement for change, or help promote the eco-village movement, etc., etc. Then when we have, at a later date, when we have the funding for the establishment of eco-villages, some who cannot afford to pay for the education and want to learn through immersion, you can physically help us create and work the eco-villages, and then eventually become the teachers and the trainers of the future, and then have the knowledge to go and expand and create your eco-villages out there. So funding our movement and getting people involved is necessary, because we realize that doing this alone without funding in our current paradigm is not only difficult, it's absolutely impossible. I mean, this isn't about us. It's about you, me, all of us, the rest of humanity and all life, and of course, Mother Earth herself. Although we've got this far on a shoestring, like we really have been, like really on a shoestring, it's time to make the real difference we're meant to make. The purpose of donations in establishing this now is to provide an alternative for when societies collapse and jobs are no longer available. And of course, consistent investment in the new education system now and into the future is our long-term plan, ensuring an alternative situation is ready for everyone when our current paradigm collapses. Your small but consistent contributions to a long-term plan will ensure it becomes a reality. Of course, the larger donations or grants, the sooner it'll happen. So, I mean, applications for grants could be something that somebody would like to work on. It's just something that's just beyond my capacity to deal with right now, but it's extremely important. I mean, a guy was telling us about how this farmer from the Free State got grants from, I think, Sweden, and is creating an eco-village type setup on the Zambezi River in Mozambique. And of course, creating the irrigation systems from the Zambezi, which is a major river in Africa, and creating sustainable pods for the local community where they grow their own food. And he has a farm within this, but it's all about empowering the locals and himself and life around there while working in harmony with nature. So projects like this are happening, and it is possible, and there are examples of it. But the philosophy, exactly that, from our point of view, it's like not there yet, but that's ultimately what we want to try and achieve. So the contributions in terms of grants would be wonderful. No matter how small your contributions, you show your commitment to the intended outcome. And that commitment is so invaluable and is a psychological and a societal force for change. And of course, the more each person contributes, the greater their investment and commitment to creating our vision of a fair, happy, healthy, and sustainable future. Right, that's what I had to say. Anybody?